great Rav Tzvi Hirsch Berliner, was once asked, why is it that on Pesach we encourage our children to question Manish Tana? Why is this night different than all others? And yet, on Sukkot they have no such question. Isn't Sukkot just as bizarre for them to leave the permanent, to leave the comfortable structure and to go outside to a temporary, vulnerable, fragile one? It's just as bizarre, it's just as peculiar. So why do they ask on Pesach Manish Tana why that night is different, and yet go a whole week of Sukkot without asking the very same question? Rav Tzvi Hirsch Berliner's answer is both insightful and at the same time truly tragically sad. He says, to the Jewish child, our behavior on Pesach is an aberration, it's unusual. For that child to see their parents reclining like royalty, free and carefree, safe and secure, a leil shimurim, no threat, no challenge, royalty and regal, reclining and free, that's unusual. To the Jewish child, it's an aberration, it's bizarre. But to see the parents living vulnerable and fragile, to be outside under a sukkah without knowing safety and security, sadly, that's all too normal for the Jewish child, and so they're not moved to ask that question. And here we are once again, where in many ways we have safety and security in ways we never did before, but in others, this sukkah has been bizarre, it's been historical, it's been unprecedented. Sitting in the vulnerability and fragility of the sukkah has not just been about the structure, but as much it's about the time in which we live. Unpredictable. We have no comfort or confidence in what is happening and what will be happening. The guests whom we long to be with but who are absent, family and friends, we couldn't share this yontif that we ordinarily do together. This sukkah, we're reminded yet again of our vulnerability and fragility. And while the Haggadah gives clear answers to the Manishtana on Pesach night, what is the answer to where we find the happiness, the Zman Simchasenu, the joy in Sukkot and the last days of Sukkot? Shemini Atzeres, Simchas Torah, the last days of this holiday, are really very unusual. There's no mitzvah, there's no theme, there's no historical event that we are commemorating. The lulav and esrog have been put away. And the sukkah, one does not need to sit in. Of course, we do as a custom on Shemini Atzeres, but technically, we don't sit in any longer. We learn this from the words of the pasuk, V'hayisa ach sameach, that the ach is l'rabos. It comes to include that we have to have simcha, we have to have joy on the 8th day, the last day of Sukkot. Now, it's peculiar that the word ach is coming l'rabos to add something. The Gra, the Vilna Gaon, points out that the word ach always comes to be mema'et, to limit and to eliminate something. So what is the word ach here eliminating? What is it minimizing? And listen to this insight of the Vilna Gaon. What he says is it's excluding, it's minimizing, it's eliminating. You see, every other holiday has a theme, a historical event. There's a particular mitzvah we observe that we do. But this 8th day of Sukkot, we've put that all away. We've passed the historical theme. There is nothing other than the sanctity of the day. There is no mitzvah. There's no theme. There's no historical event. And yet, it's a yontif. It's a yontif that mandates and that brings a responsibility for simcha, for joy. In fact, our rabbis call this 8th day, these last days of Sukkot, a regel bifnei atzmo. They are a holiday in their own right, independent. And that's why we make a Shech Yanu, the night of Shemini Atzeres, unlike the last days of Pesach, because this is a new and independent holiday. And here's my question. On the one hand, we say regel bifnei atzmo. It's a holiday on its own. On the other, we call it Shemini Atzeres, the 8th. If something is an independent holiday on its own, then it should be the first of that new holiday. The moment that we call it the 8th, we are suggesting that it is not the beginning, it's not the first, it's not independent or on its own. Rather, it's predicated, it's built, it follows up on that which comes before. So which is it? Is it a regel b'fnei atzmo, or is it Shmini, the 8th of something that comes before? And there are many answers to this question. We've shared some of them before. But I want to share with you, in this Yizkor thought, as we go into the last days of Sukkot, I want to share with you my own suggestion. The Ramban, the Maharal, and others all talk about the significance of the number 8. The number 8 is one more than 7. It represents not the natural, but a step above, that which transcends. It represents the supernatural. There are 7 days of the week and 7 notes on a musical scale and 7 directions, if you include the center. 7 represents the natural world and the natural order. And that's what we were focused on for the week of Sukkot. We sat in the sukkah, whose schach has to come from gidulei karka, that which grows naturally. We took the 4 species, which all grow from the ground, that they're part of the natural order. But when the holiday of nature is over, when Sukkot passes, we stay for one more day. Because after the holiday of nature, Sukkot, the 7, comes the holiday of 8. Not because it's built on what comes before, it's its own holiday. It's a brand new day, we say Shechianu. But the theme, the essence of this new day, that has no historical event and no theme and no mitzvah, its essence is the number 8. 8 is about the supernatural, that which transcends the natural order. A bris is on the 8th day because Jewish men are empowered to overcome their natural impulse and drive and to achieve holiness. Chanukah is for 8 days because the oil defied what's naturally programmed to do, and supernaturally it lasted for 8 days. And the Gemara tells us, among other things, the Jewish people, Ein Mazali Yisrael, we are not subjected to nature. Our very existence is indescribable. Mark Twain in Harper's Magazine famously once wrote, all things remain mortal but the Jew, all of the forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality? And we know the secret of our immortality. It's our relationship with Hashem, it's our relationship with his sacred Torah. It's Simchas Torah, it's the joy that comes from a Torah life. The source of our eternity, the basis of our stubborn existence, is our commitment to Torah, to its values, and to its vision for this world. So the simcha that comes on this new independent holiday, that yes, follows the holiday that comes before called Sukkot, and yet is a regel b'fnei atzmo. It's a holiday in its own right, and it's a holiday that's brought to us by the theme of the number 8, to remind us that we indeed are supernatural, that even in a world of unpredictability, even in this unprecedented time, even as we remain in a period of fragility and confronting our mortality, Ein Mazali Yisrael. We're not part of the natural order, and we're not subject to the rules of nature. And if Mark Twain can observe all the more so, we should know with confidence that the Jewish people have an eternality, that we are here to stay, that we achieve immortality when we tap into that sacred Torah. And that's why we recite Yizkor on this 8th day, on this holiday in its own right. Because this is what the Gra said, V'hayisa ach sameach. We have the capacity to feel simcha even with ach when something is missing. No mitzvah, no historical event, no theme. There's no component to the day. Even with all that's missing, we know what's there. We still feel its indelible impression. We still draw from its inspiration and influence. We know it's present even if we can't grab it, even if there's no formal ritual, ceremony, mitzvah component to it. Even when there's nothing physically there, sameach. We know that it can inform and inspire our sense of joy and our happiness, our confidence and our identity. It completes us. It makes us know who we are and what our lives are about. And that's what has inspired Jewish children through the ages. They may ask questions, but they know, despite the sukkah, which may not be unusual for the Jewish child, to confront and face that fragility and those challenging times. But we know that we survive, that we pass, and we tap into those who are no longer here. Va'isa ach, our parents, our mothers and fathers, our bubbies and our zaydis, our aunts and uncles, our neighbors and friends, who they're not physically here, they're not tangibly present, but sameach. We can be joyful. We can be fulfilled and happy. We can be informed and inspired by the continued inspiration and influence that we draw and that we take from them. You know, many of our bubbies and zaydis, they sang a song on Sukkot. Maybe you remember in your own sukkah they're singing, maybe you sang along with them. A song called A Sukkah La'Akleina. It was written by the Yiddish writer Avram Reisen. I'm not going to sing it for you, not in the Yiddish and not in the English, but I do want to read it to you in conclusion, because it really captures what we're feeling this particular year and what they faced and they felt in the confronting the challenges of their lives. A sukkah akleina, a sukkah quite small, wooden planks for each wall. Lovingly I stood them upright, I laid that thatch as a ceiling. And now filled with deep feeling, I sit in my sukkah at night. A chill wind attacks, blowing through the cracks. The candles, they flicker and yearn. It's so strange a thing that as the Kiddush I sing, the flames calmed and now quietly burn. It comes, my daughter, bearing hot food and water, worry on her face like a pole. She just stands there shaking and her voice nearly breaking. Says, Tatanu, the sukkah's going to fall. Dear daughter, don't fret, it hasn't fallen yet. The sukkah will be fine, understand. There have been many such fears for nigh 2,000 years, yet the sukkah continues to stand. This year, our sukkah faced not hurricane-force winds, but it faced challenges of who wasn't there, and the challenges that we're going through of who is there. It hasn't fallen yet, and it never will fall if we grab onto those who come before. And so, as we say Yizkor this year, and we think about our heroes, our loved ones, our friends, those who sacrificed in order to create and to build, in order to hold up the sukkah, to pass it on for us to hold up for the next generation, despite the winds that it faces. They've blown for 2,000 years, and yet the sukkah has remained upright. It's our job to keep it sturdy and firm and to pass it on to the next generation. And when we look for that courage and faith, for that strength to do it, we draw from those who aren't here but continue to be felt in our lives each and every day. We love them and we miss them, and we feel their hand on our shoulder, we feel their loving embrace, we hear their words, and we still smell the aroma of their recipes, and we can taste the foods they made and that we ate in our sukkah, the sukkah of 2,000 years, the sukkah that keeps us going. I ask you in memory of those who came before. We spoke about in Shabbos Shuvah that what you do is who you are. Words are empty, but actions speak so much louder. So I ask you to please contribute to the community in order for us to be able to continue to provide the inspiration, the learning, the davening, the sense of community that we also desperately need at this time. And in that way, pay the greatest tribute to our loved ones who come before, that not only do we give them lip service, but rather what we do is who they were. What we do is who we are, with an extension of them. May the sukkah and may our lives stand upright. May please God, ach sameach, with whatever's missing or whatever's lacking, with however hard a time it is, may we feel simcha, may we feel the joy of knowing what we've confronted and overcome before, and the confidence and faith that we will yet do it again, that gamze ya'avor, this too will pass, and we will be together. We'll be together with our loved ones who came before, and we'll be together with one another.